Hello everyone, I'm Kyle Glockner and welcome back to Face Off. While my introduction to the series was relatively recent, Persona has become one of my favorite franchises. Despite its beginnings as a mere spin-off of the Shin Megami Tensei franchise, Persona is one of the most unique series I've played with how it blends JRPG-style dungeon gameplay with a school-life social simulator. The series has changed a bit throughout the years, with the upcoming Persona 5 The Royal being what I consider to be a culmination of what the recent releases in the series have been building up to gameplay-wise. But for today, I'd like to take a look at the two games that got the Persona franchise started on the track it is today. So, I'll be taking a look at Persona 3 and Persona 4. Let's get started. Persona 3 was released first for the PS2 in Japan in 2006. There was then an add-on disc called Persona 3 FES that released alongside a Persona 3 Director's Cut in Japan in 2007, and as a standalone disc under the name Persona 3 FES in North America in 2008. Once again, it was released on the PSP under the title Persona 3 Portable in Japan in 2009 and for North America in 2010. For this review, I'll be talking about the game from the perspective of an FES playthrough. This game featured the JRPG standard of a nameable protagonist, who I will be referring to by his name in the anime, Makoto Yuki, transferring schools and moving into a new dorm that houses SEAS, or the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad, after he learns to summon his persona. Together with his allies in SEAS, he must explore a tower called Tartarus in order to solve the mystery of the Dark Hour and the shadows themselves. As it is one of the most important aspects of a JRPG, I'll start by talking about the combat. Combat in P3 is done in a pretty standard turn-based format where you can use your weapon, use a persona attack, use an item, attempt to flee, or wait. However, in all Persona 3 iterations except Portable, you don't actually control your party members in combat. The only character you have control of is Makoto. This is easily one of the most annoying aspects of Persona 3. While you can set battle commands for the party to dictate how they will generally act, they aren't always super reliable, like Mitsuru trying to charm literally every single enemy you encounter, or Junpei solely using melee attacks on an enemy that's weak to fire. Every single time. But honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. While there were a couple rough battles, most of them went off pretty well. One other issue I have with Persona 3 is the exhaustion mechanic. While exploring Tartarus, after a certain number of battles, your party members can become tired. While this isn't awful in the moment, if one of your party members gets exhausted, they won't be able to explore Tartarus again the next night. Again, this wasn't awful, but it is a bit limiting when I just want to keep trucking through Tartarus and spend the rest of my time increasing my social stats. Speaking of social stats, like I said before, this was the first Persona game to introduce social links, and thus it was the first game to introduce social stats. In Persona 3, these were categorized as academics, courage, and charm. You can increase these stats by answering questions in class, seeing movies, going to different places, etc. These are mostly used for ranking up your social links and take up a majority of your free time during the early months of the game. But at least in my playthrough, my social stats got maxed out around August, which left me with next to nothing to do during the days when I couldn't hang out with those characters who I needed to rank up. This left me with literally nothing to do in the later months of the game and was just overall kinda boring. That being said, the story and characters are easily the best parts of this game. The members of SEAS contain some of my favorite characters in the Persona franchise, including Fuka, Junpei, Aigis, Koromaru, and of course Mitsuru. Each of these characters are extremely well written and lovable throughout the near year-long timeline of this game. On top of that, the overall story, while not incredibly engaging until the later third of the game, is one of the best stories in a Persona game to this date. I genuinely believe that it can at least rival the story told in Persona 5, which is why I think so highly of the Persona 3 movies, which I reviewed last semester on Animanga. Overall, Persona 3 was an amazing start to the modern Persona franchise. As I said, I only played FES, but from what I've heard, it is definitely the best way to experience the game. Now, while Persona 3 was an amazing addition to the Persona franchise, fans didn't have to wait very long to play the next entry in the franchise, Persona 4. Persona 4 released for the PS2 in 2008 and then got a re-release for the PS Vita called Persona 4 Golden in 2012, which added a couple characters, events, and general quality of life fixes. Like with FES, this review will be based on my own playthrough of Persona 4 Golden. Persona 4 Golden once again features a nameable protagonist, who I will refer to once again by his anime name, Yu Narukami, as he moves into the rural town of Yaso Inaba. As he goes throughout his days, he learns of a mysterious midnight channel, where it is rumored that your crush will appear on the TV on rainy nights at midnight. After a couple small-town murders and the discovery of a world within the TV, it's up to you and the gang to solve these mysteries and save their small town. Keeping in line with what I talked about with Persona 3, the combat of Persona 4 is largely the same as in Persona 3, with the exception being that you can actually control your party members. While overall the combat is incredibly similar to P3, this quality of life update makes it infinitely better in the long run, as I had a much better time playing the game and fighting shadows. As there is no exhaustion mechanic, I'll have to move on to the social stats. In Persona 4, there are 5 social stats: knowledge, courage, diligence, understanding, and expression. With the addition of 2 social stats, it's much easier to spend your time raising these stats, and I can say that I never had a do-nothing day in Persona 4. On top of that, Persona 4 also has some fantastic characters, some of my favorites being Yosuke, Naoto, Kanji, Dojima, Marie, and of course Rise. Overall, I think the social links of Persona 4 are a lot better than the ones in Persona 3. Plus, you now have the ability to choose one girl to officially date, as opposed to the weird limbo Persona 3 left you in with each girl. Finally, the story of Persona 4, while very good, didn't blow my expectations out of the water. It was a very good murder mystery, and I think the characters in the game worked very well with the setting they were put in. But that's not to knock the story in any way. Persona overall is one of my favorite JRPG franchises, and I couldn't truly say anything bad about the stories it has to tell. Honestly, between these 2 games, the decision as to which one is better is really hard. They're both amazing in their own ways, and it truly depends on whether you like good characters and story, or gameplay determine whether or not a game is good for you. For me, I feel like I had to give Persona 4 the victory. While I do love the story of Persona 3, this is about which is the better game. Therefore, the winner is Persona 4. But what do you think? Do you love Persona 3 or do you prefer Persona 4? Let me know by tweeting me at ZTVGoofingOff using the hashtag FaceOff. Until then, I'm Kyle Glockner, and this has been Face Off.